In under 14 minutes, more passengers died on this ship than died on the Titanic. Not more people overall, more passengers. And this didn't happen in some remote unknown wreck. It happened on a major transatlantic liner in a busy river with rescue ships nearby within minutes. When people think of the deadliest ocean liner disaster in history, they think of the Titanic. One tragedy, endlessly documented, endlessly retold. But less than 2 years after the Titanic sank, a Canadian Pacific liner went down even faster, killed a higher proportion of everyone aboard, and today, almost nobody has heard its name. This is the story of the RMS Empress of Ireland, and the story of how history simply forgot to remember it.
The RMS Empress of Ireland was a Canadian Pacific Ocean liner, one of the fastest and most modern ships running the route between Quebec City and Liverpool. On the night of May 28, 1914, she left Quebec with 420 crew and 1,057 passengers aboard. 1,477 people in total, spread across first, second, and third class. Among them was a group of 171 Salvation Army officers and musicians on their way to London for an international congress. It was meant to be a routine Atlantic crossing, one the ship had made many times before. But a few hours into the voyage, in the middle of the night, a thick fog rolled in over the St. Lawrence River. And somewhere out there in the dark, another ship was heading straight for her. Just after 1:30 in the morning, lookouts spotted the lights of a Norwegian coal-carrying ship called the Storstad approaching through the fog. Both crews tried to read each other's signals and steer clear, and both guessed wrong. The Storstad's reinforced bow, built to push through ice, struck the Empress of Ireland almost directly amidships, tearing a massive hole below the waterline. It should have been survivable. Ships are built with watertight compartments specifically for this kind of damage. But the crew never got the chance to close them in time. The ship began listing so violently, so quickly, that within minutes, the open portholes on the lower decks, left open for the warm night, were already underwater. From the moment of impact, the Empress of Ireland had less time to sink than it takes to watch this video so far.
The ship is gone! Women to the boats!
The ship rolled onto her side and sank in approximately 14 minutes, faster than almost any other major liner disaster in history. There was no time to organize lifeboats the way the Titanic's crew had nearly 2.5 hours to attempt. Most people never made it out of their cabins.
I was shot into the sea myself from the bridge and taken down with the suction. The next thing I remember was seizing a piece of grating.
Of the 138 children aboard, only 3 survived. Of the 171 Salvation Army officers and musicians traveling together to their Congress, just 8 made it out alive. In total, 1,012 people died that night, and only 465 survived, meaning roughly 2 out of every 3 people aboard were gone before the sun came up. A disaster this fast, this deadly, should have dominated headlines for years. Instead, it barely made a ripple. And that's the strangest part of this story. Unlike the USA Tirona, there was no cover-up here, no classified file, no government keeping secrets. The Empress of Ireland disappeared from public memory for a much simpler, almost accidental reason: terrible timing. The Titanic had sunk only 2 years earlier, and the public's appetite for another ocean liner tragedy, with its own inquiry, its own list of the dead, its own newspaper coverage, had already been exhausted. Then, barely a year after the Empress went down, the Lusitania was torpedoed, pulling the world's attention toward the war that was about to begin. And just weeks after the Empress sank, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand set off the chain of events that triggered the First World War. Historians who study the disaster consistently point to the same explanation. The Empress of Ireland was sandwiched between two of the most famous maritime disasters in history, and overshadowed almost immediately by the outbreak of a war that would kill millions. There was simply no room left in public memory for a third tragedy at sea. Today, the wreck of the Empress of Ireland lies at the bottom of the St. Lawrence River, protected as a historic site. Divers still visit it, researchers still study it, but compared to the Titanic, which has movies, museums, and a permanent place in popular culture, the Empress of Ireland remains a footnote, despite killing a higher percentage of the people aboard and doing it 4 times faster. It's a reminder that how a tragedy is remembered often has less to do with how terrible it was, and more to do with what else was happening in the world at the exact same time. If you want to keep uncovering the maritime disasters history left out of the story, subscribe. There's another one waiting every week.